Okay, hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about the most common mistake that I see on Fracture. The basic idea is that we're going to see here is when you are taking space on the other side of the map, do not try and fight on the other side. This setup is really dangerous because while they are taking the strong side on A main, or on dish, sorry, they're playing on site on the other side, which is just a really bad idea. And you'll see why in a second. When you are playing weak side, it is very hard for you to control all of both sides of the map. When you're playing the strong side and you have three people who can take one part, it makes your retake way easier because you have a three-pronged attack. What ends up happening here on this side of attack is they're gonna pinch B main and arcade, and they're gonna pinch these players on site, going 2 for 1, which is really good. Now, when you look at the retake scenario that NFX have to deal with, they're all in arcade. They have pretty much nothing to go off of because both of their players are dead on site. They're in a numbers disadvantage, and it's just going to be really bad. Now, I'm not sure what Reject are doing here. They get kind of antsy, and they're trying to push into CT. So Echo catches a timing here, really good timing. Very good Neon player, by the way, if you didn't know. But this round actually goes in the favor of NFX because, well, Reject just don't play the mid round very correctly. But the fundamentals are still there. They're going to end up winning the round, but just from, like, the perspective of NFX, I would never want to play a situation like this where this, like, retake scenario is really bad for, they have a numbers disadvantage for one, because we're playing on site. We should just be playing in CT, but that's not what ends up happening. I skipped a little bit too far ahead. I want to skip to round 4 where we'll see a mistake that I see from NFX again. And this is just, again, talking about like retake scenarios and whatnot. We're going to see I don't know how you count out attack sides on Fracture, but we're going to see 4 dish, 1 A main. These 3 people, they can set up a trap on B. That's good. These guys, again, I'm still a little bit worrisome about A main, but that's okay. They still have a trap play in mind, and even if things do not go very well, we have a good escape route. Because we're Neon, we have wall, we have slide. Even though it's not ideal, I would prefer if we were playing the trap on the strong side, which we kind of are, but we're still playing a little bit more passive than I would like. It's still not the end of the world, but this isn't even the problem. The problem comes when we get a little bit deeper into the round. They're going to end up taking dish, and they're going to get out. They're going to start flooding out. Teo is alone. Now, they don't know Teo is alone, but it kind of doesn't matter. You cannot fight on site. You don't have any utility to fight on site. Your players are not even close. You have one guy tower and one A main. I hate this smoke because ideally what we should be doing here is we should be fighting A main so that we have full control of A main, which makes this retake way easier. If we have A main, even if the raise comes in like she does, we can still fight it a lot easier than running the risk to the door. Instead, we relinquish all control and we're left in a 5v5 situation. Not the worst thing in the world, I do like that we actually relinquish control, but there were better ways of going for it. We could have instead gone through into spawn and then started re-clearing A main from door and spawn together and then holding from CT, which allowed us to crunch A main a lot better. And then we could have killed Teo a lot easier, who actually becomes a problem later in this round. They're going to take A main control, which is the correct move here. And they actually end up in a 4v2 situation once hate goes down. This round, despite their issues, comes down to just the mechanics off of Brian and Mudo getting that kill onto Black Wiz. But the ideas coming out of NFX are very worrisome because they're not setting up the map correctly, where they should be taking some space into A main so that they don't have to so that their control is a lot more sound. They're just giving up all control, even on. I'm not even talking about B. They could have, breach flashed this guy, but maybe not put down the smoke, but they could have had a lot more control of A main, where they wouldn't have had problems with these guys sitting in here. Even though it goes their way, it's still just their ideas are very worrisome. Let's talk about this round from what's it called? This round, round 7, which they actually start playing a lot better. This is actually the round after, excuse me, what's it called? This is coming off the timeout. And we're gonna see a bunch of A main players. We're gonna see, or sorry, B main. There's a trap over on A main. This is still really bad. And I hope you can spot the problem that we've been talking about. Yes, it's the Vi sitting on site. Brimstone, not doing too bad for himself. He's in CT, he's playing a passive position. But we still have this problem where Vice is just giving, who's going to end up giving her life. And oh no, Brim has tried to come with her arcade. Even though we set up a very aggressive position and we have A, and we know that it's not A main because of look at the position that we're in. We're going to start pushing on a B arcade, and it's going to be a fucking disaster. Excuse me. Teo ult is going to come out. There's no amount of util that can come out from the defense side, even though this flash is perfect for them. There's nothing that can really happen here that's going to be advantageous for the defense because, well, Teo ult is coming out. They don't have a numbers advantage. They're split up apart by the Teo ult. My game is lagging, but you get the idea. Why is this happening? They're going to go 2 for 1 for the attack side, and then look at the retake scenario again. We're going to look at this. The Astral walls come up, so they definitely can't push out or flood out fast. They have to kind of wait for this wall to go down, and then look at the positions. They have a crossfire and over, create over for arcade. They have very deep players that it's going to be very hard to clear out. They have Tejo missiles for the post plant. This is a fucking disaster. These guys are in tower. Even though these guys are A main, it doesn't really matter. Because, well, they're in a numbers disadvantage. They're actually going to pop result, which is good for them. And they're going to get a double. Even though that these guys probably had the round of the bag, they're still, again, we talked about rejects, mechanical failures. This round should not have gone in the favor of NFX. They had a reject have an insane positional advantage. They had the numbers advantage. The fact that this went the way of NFX is insane. Just because their ideas of how to play the retake are terrible. Or how to set up for the retake are terrible. They have full control over A, and we know that they have full control over A. Now could it be Dish? Probably, but it's probably going to be B. But then we're taking aggressive space when these players are nowhere close. We know they're probably B. And it's just a fucking disaster. Now they end up winning this round, right? Echo's gonna get that kill onto Mudo. But if you've been listening to what I've said, you would understand that the ideas that are coming out from these rounds are just, they're really flawed, and it's kind of worrisome for NFX because they're going off of the backs of their mechanics and not off of like how they would actually want to play the map. We're going to talk about round 9 here. This is coming off of another timeout, and I think this is where it starts to change. They start to develop better plans of how they want to actually take space on the map, and we're actually going to see a very drastic changes where they're actually going to be playing passive on the weak side, which is really good. Esperanza, he knows he's alone. He's going to be playing very passive. These guys are going to be taking very early arcade control, and then they're going to take into A main. This guy's going to be playing very passive, and this is going to be really good because now, even though these players are going to be able to take full A main control, they're going to be able to take A. These players are going to be able to flank or do whatever. They're going to be able to take a multi-pronged attack. The retake's going to be much smoother. These players aren't dying for no reason. They're not on a player disadvantage. These players end up getting stuck in sand, which allows for this trap play that's about to come out. Neon's going to be able to flank. They're now in a numbers advantage because they just killed Mudo off the trap play that they just created for themselves, and just playing passively and then taking this control over on B. They know it's going to be A. They're ready for it. these players are going to get flanked on, like I just predicted from earlier, because that's what we were talking about. They can't have any control over the site. Um, and they, with the aggressive space that they took on their strong side, they are able to flank and they're able to get those 2 picks. This round's over. 5v2. Echo's going to clean up the last 2, and this is kind of just what I was talking about. Great, insane, drastic um, playstyle difference that we're going to see out of NFX, but the ideas are sound, they're solid, they're going to do much better. And this is just what I was talking about. Like, you want this type of play coming out instead of what we were seeing, where the conclusion that you should draw from this is when you are in the numbers advantage or you have like 3 people on your side of the map, take aggressive space, take those risks. You want that early map control. But when you are not in that position, when you are 2 players or even just by yourself on site, you should not be on site. You should be CT. Set up a trap play somewhere else that you can actually capitalize off of. But just know that this mistake, even though you think that you have 2 players, you can hold the site well, with the geometry on Fracture, it's not possible. You have to play retake. And this is just something that I see from so many teams get wrong. You have to play retake. Please play retake. Please take aggressive. But you also have to be taking aggressive space. You have to go for the aggressive space. You have to go for B main, arcade, dish, whatever A main. But you have to come in from that flank. This map's very attacker sided. You have to get being able to take from the retake. You have from CT plus a flank position makes it so much easier. You're gonna be way more successful on Fracture, but you just have to incorporate way different ideas that you would play on a standard map like Ascent. You would never go for a flank on Ascent. It's terrible. But a map like Fracture, where the flanks are actually very advantageous, where you can come out from multiple sides, it's going to be much better for you. And I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, drop a like, whatever. If you didn't learn anything, I hope this is something that you already had learned. But if you didn't learn anything and you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe it's time to pick up a different game, maybe something easier, maybe Minecraft Hardcore would be better for your brain because clearly you don't pick up on things. But anyways, I hope you learned something. Goodbye.